All right, why don't we get started? How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, so the first thing that I just want to tell everybody, just in case everyone hasn't met me, I'm Terry. I am a staff member at Spinal Cord Injury BC, and thank you everybody for joining us today. So today's session, we're talking about sexual health. I want everybody to know, just in case you're new to this, but we are recording this video. So, and the video is meant to be going onto our YouTube channel. So if you do not want your face being seen, then please turn your video camera off. And, you know, just, you might want to do that now. If you're okay with it, then it's fine. Also, what was I going to say? I got a message from our communications team who would like me to relay that we're wanting to include peer stories, so stories from you on the sexual health site that we're going to be showing you later. So if you have some stories that you're willing to share, it could be completely anonymous. Please, even if you just send me a note that says, I'm interested in sharing my story, just email me and I can pass it on to our communications team, and they can connect with you asking, you know, helping you to write the story or whatever it might be. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Leslie Houle and Rachel. I can't even pronounce Rachel's last name, so they'll introduce it. But they'll introduce themselves. They're at the GF Strong office in sexual health, and thank you guys so much for joining us. And also for everybody, if you could just put yourselves on mute, and then I don't have to do that, just in case there's someone's phone rings or whatever. Otherwise, I'll have to mute and unmute you, and I don't want to forget. So, yeah, that's about it. And take it away, Leslie and Rachel.
All right. Thanks, Terry, and thanks a lot for inviting us to provide this presentation to all of you. We realize that this is an important area of people's lives, and it's an area that there aren't a lot of outlets in which to discuss it. So we're here to let you know we are available should you wish to connect with one of us, and we'll talk a little bit about the whole referral process. I'd like to start off a little bit by just introducing. Sorry, I'm Leslie, and then Rachel. Rachel is next to me here.
Hello.
I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been nursing here at GF Strong since '95, and started on the brain injury program. Was there for about a year, moved down to the spinal cord injury program, and I worked on the high lesion program for a number of years before the program changed a little bit. And anyways, in 2009, I had an opportunity to take on a position in the sexual health department, and I've been there ever since.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. It's been a long time at GF Strong, coming up for 25 years, I think. So a lifer, and this is where I'm going to be staying. So I'll tell you just a little maybe background to the sexual health service. It has been around for just over 40 years now, and it was initially started by Dr. George Saz, who, but funnily enough, we still get an opportunity to connect with on an annual basis. And you know, he's 90 now, and he's still so involved in this area as far as wanting to. He's just very curious, wanting information, passing information on to us. So he really keeps his fingers in the pot here. And he's just so thrilled to see how much the program has expanded. So like I said, it started at Shaughnessy Hospital, and it came about by people being asked or noticing that you know, patients were quite down. A majority of men, because we know that a higher number of spinal cord injured patients are men. Men saying, you know, I just can't imagine anyone being interested in me now. who, you know, I'm half a man, I'm just not the person I was before. So a lot of these thoughts were coming up, and it was interfering a bit with their recovery. A lot of when people were starting to be asked, like, what is it that's really bothering you, and getting right down to, and it was the sexual side of things. Nobody was addressing it. Nobody was talking to them about it. It was just, you've had your injury, let's get you on with your rehabilitation and get back into life. But we know through a lot of research that by not addressing this area, it certainly can hamper people's impact and willingness in getting back into regular life again. So it's kind of just stemmed from there, and Dr. Saz was able to get a clinic started there at Shaughnessy. It's then moved over, branched out to GF Strong, and it's been continuing since then. So the doctor who took over from Dr. Saz, as some of you may be familiar with, is Dr. Stacey Elliott, and she's still with our program to this day. So our service is mainly housed at GF Strong. This is where we see a majority of our inpatients as well as outpatients on service. We also have the other side of our service, an outpatient service over at the Blessing Spinal Cord Center, and we also have our fertility section there, which is the Vancouver Sperm Retrieval Clinic. So men, for multitude of reasons, maybe not able to ejaculate. We do see a number of men with spinal cord injuries, and they're wanting to either, they're curious about their potential or curious about their potential to become a biological father down the road. So we got our hands in lots of different areas,
Yeah,
and it keeps things super interesting.
Additionally, we've expanded our scope since back in the day when our program was started. So we not only see clients with spinal cord injury, but clients with brain injury after stroke, clients with cerebral palsy, clients post organ transplant, and it looks like pretty soon we're likely going to be seeing clients recovering from cancer and going through cancer treatments. And yeah, so I think that finally people in the medical community are realizing that any major medical diagnosis or anything you're going through that's changing your whole body is going to affect sexual health, intimacy, relationships, and all those parts of what makes being a human enjoyable a lot of the time. So so yeah, we're really proud of our program and hoping that down the road it will expand even more. Oh, and by the way, my name is Rachel Nicoletti. I'm a newbie compared to Leslie, so I've been with sexual health rehab for about two and a half years. I work part-time for the service Monday to Wednesday. Prior to this, I was working in sexual health for many years, but in a different capacity with a different population. So for 5 years, I was actually working for a research project looking at the health and safety of sex workers in Vancouver, and doing STI tests and PAP tests and counseling and referrals and things like that. And then also working in a PCH community clinic with youth, providing contraception and sexual health counseling there. So I've had now, I think, a pretty well-rounded sexual health experience, but I'm learning a lot every day from Leslie, and she's definitely one of my mentors. So yeah, glad to be here with you guys.
I don't know if many of you have ever connected with our service in the past, but should you be interested, referral is fairly straightforward. We do ask that it come from your doctor or nurse practitioner. However, if that becomes a challenge for anyone, we do accept self-referrals, and we can initiate that by a conversation on the telephone, for instance.
Also just wanted to say today that if anyone has like a pressing question, I'm not sure, Terry, how you want to go with that. Are we going to allow for questions throughout the presentation?
Yeah, we can. So there's a couple options. I mean, there's just 11 of us right now, so it should be somewhat manageable. People can unmute themselves and ask a question. There's a chat box that you should see a button down below on your option that says chat. So you could type in there if you like either your question or, and I can read it out, or you could just type, I have a question, if you would you know, when there's a break in the conversation, ask it. If you would like it to be anonymous question, please just type in the question and I can read it out without your name. And yeah, that's
Okay.
an option. So
I think that's great. Like I have found that in the past, a lot of learning can come from everyone sort of being involved and just seeing what conversations come up. And because this is for all of you who have Zoomed in today, Leslie and I can sit here and tell you what we want to tell you about, but in the end, this is for you, and we want to make sure that any information or discussions that are important to you, we can have, you know, so long as we're keeping on track with and within the realm of sexual health, relationships, intimacy, and all of that. So yeah.
Good. So now that we've got through most of the boring stuff, we'll try and get down to the nitty gritty now. We partnered with SCIBC a couple of years ago and developed a sexual health website that was in dire need of being developed. And I've just been so thankful that SCIBC has been able to help provide this service for us and help us keep it up and running, up to date with information. So we were kind of thinking today that we might just kind of run through the website for you. I don't know if many of you have had an opportunity to look at the website, but we're pretty proud of it. It's got lots of great resources as well as practical information for people about a lot of the questions and concerns you have, and it stems right from, you know, the basics about what is sexuality, what is sexual health all about, right down to, you know, your sexual self-view, partnership, fertility, contraception, that sort of thing.
I think that one of the best parts of the website is the videos that we have links to. I think that seeing and hearing about someone's experience who has a spinal cord injury is one of the most valuable ways that we can pass on information, and that experiences around issues with sexual health, relationships, whatever it may be, can be normalized, and it can be really helpful to sort of destigmatize issues people have, and take away a lot of the stress and emotional issues that can come up for people. So that's one area of the website that I really love. And just to note as well, we're actually working right now towards hopefully creating a pilot program that will where we will be developing a group for peers, where peers can come. For peers and led by peers, where people can talk about their experiences having a spinal cord injury, how it's changed, whether it's relationships, sexual function, dating, all those sorts of topics. So stay tuned, and Terry may pass on information to you guys in the coming months. We're hoping to also have something potentially down the road online, because we know a lot of you are not in Vancouver, and so yeah.
awesome. Do you guys want me to put up the website? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So I'm going to share with you guys the website. So Leslie and Rachel, just so you know before I start, we do have one person that is calling in. So
Okay.
they won't be able to see it. So we might have to just describe it. And hold on. Cameron, sorry if this was about prostate injection with Botox and Botox in male, if there's issues in loss and function.
Okay. Was there anything more specific than that, Cameron, that you wanted to ask? Or, I mean, I can talk to you a little bit because I've had a little bit of experience recently with patients using Botox.
Okay, well, I've talked to Rachel before about,
Okay.
we dealt with her before in the past, and we went through the prostate injection and stuff like that, but I didn't realize I was a candidate for like Botox for my bladder.
Yeah.
And nobody can really answer the question. Could it really ever affect anything to do with like the male side of it?
So with erections?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm asking because my girlfriend wants to know. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, I know it's a big thing, but I'm a little bit concerned too. But, you know, it's just an issue. And just want to know if it's possible. Like, you know,
Great. Well, I know that, yeah, Botox certainly is being used a lot more often these days for bladder management, right? And improving bladder management for people, and it's been so helpful. But yes, it does have some sexual side effects. As far as the erection side of things, I'm not aware of there being much in the way of issues with erections, especially if you're using medication like Prostin or the intracavernosal injection therapy. What I am aware of is that the Botox to the bladder does interfere with ejaculation. Shouldn't interfere with orgasm or that sensation for orgasm, but it may interfere with ejaculation. You just don't necessarily notice ejaculation taking place any longer. Yeah, it may as the Botox, because you go back fairly regularly to have the Botox injections. As the Botox is starting to wear off, you may start to notice ejaculation happening a bit more often.
Okay.
So that's the one, negative side effect to the Botox. But, keep in mind that ejaculation isn't everything when it comes to, the sexual side of things, right? The good thing is that orgasmic sensation, you should still have some appreciation for that.
Cameron.
Okay.
I had the Botox in my bladder twice, and a couple other guys on my rugby team did as well at all at the same time, and we all noticed me significantly they call it Botox spread, where it not only affects your bladder, which is great, it's the intention, but it also affects the strength in your upper body, like in your shoulders and your arms. I was just getting to the point where I could transfer myself, and once I had that done, I just couldn't do it anymore. Just, I know it's not sexually related, but it's a concern you should talk to your doctor about beforehand.
I mean, sorry.
I was just going to say that from my knowledge regarding Botox, I've heard the same thing, that each and every injection can actually affect you a little bit differently, depending on the exact location the Botox is injected, the amount of Botox that you get, and so on and so forth. So I think a little bit of a part of it would be trial and error, but the thing to keep in mind is that Botox is temporary. So should you have negative sexual side effects, it's not going to be permanent.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering, I'm gonna get it done probably in September, and I'm just trying to understand it, the whole, everything about it more or less. It kind of freaks me a little bit, but I don't know.
I didn't notice any difference sexually, but I'm a C5, so I don't have orgasms anyway. So but I didn't notice a difference with erections or anything like that.
Good. That's good to know. And this is always good information. I mean, we are constantly learning from our patients as well, information that people provide to us. And, we're then able to look into that a little bit further, ask some of the medical experts to help us understand, why some of these things are taking place, and then have that knowledge to then be able to pass on to other people. Because I don't know, George, did the doctor before giving you Botox talk to you about some of the potential side effects that, you might have a little bit of upper extremity weakness?
No, it was the first time, I believe it was the first time that he had done it. Maybe that was why, I don't know. I remember talking to my physiatrist about it, and he mentioned that there was a possibility that would happen, but I didn't realize that it would happen to that extent. Four of us on my rugby team did it all in the same day, and 3 of us noticed a significant reduction in strength or inhibition, whatever word you want to use. And Willis didn't notice any at all.
Yeah. Well, that's not really fair to your team, is it?
No.
I want to play against your team. All right, well, let me put up this website here. Here we go. All right, here it is. Now, Leslie and Rachel, you're just going to have to tell me where you want me to go. So,
does anyone have anything specific? I mean, there's so many different areas, and I think thanks, Terry, by scrolling through the icons there, you see all the different areas that we talk about with people or that might be of interest to people.
One thing to mention is that we could talk for hours about all of the different subjects related to sexual health, because sexual health isn't just about sex, it's about lots of different things. So we won't get to everything today. So yeah, if there's anyone who really wants to talk about sensation or really wants to talk about fertility, just let us know and we can make sure that those topics are included. But if not, we'll just start from Sexuality 101.
sounds good. I think that's a good
I
place
just have
to
a quick
start.
question.
Oh, yeah. Go
I've
for it.
tried everything prescription-wise to have an erection, and I don't know where to go next.
Okay. And this is Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
Jeff, so are you connected with a clinician right now?
No, I live in Kelowna.
You live in Kelowna. We can just to let other people know who are out of the Lower Mainland, we can do conversations on the phone, consultations on the phone, so you don't.
Oh, can you?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you would like to talk to a clinician, would encourage you to initiate a referral so that we can talk to you a little bit more personally and specifically about things.
Where do I get the referral from?
So on the VCH website, if you just searched up GF Strong, you doesn't necessarily need to be the specific sexual health. Actually, I don't think we even have a specific sexual health referral any longer. You can use the generic outpatient referral form to GF Strong.
Okay, I have that.
Perfect, and that's all
Okay,
we
yeah,
need.
that's not a problem.
Yep, sexual health education.
Okay, thanks a lot.
But certainly, we hear this from a lot of men. I've tried the oral medications, not very effective. Tried a few of them, moved on to injections. Again, not great response. There's also a vacuum erection device which can be helpful and useful for some people. And then sometimes there's you can use combination therapy. It might be vacuum device and oral medications to sort of help things along a little bit.
Oftentimes with things like the injection therapy, which for anyone who doesn't know is a small, very small, fine needle, similar to what you would give insulin with, probably even shorter, and a small amount of medication is injected into the side of the penis, an area that we call the cavernosum. So many times with that, there's practitioners out there in the community aren't familiar with it. The education they provide on how to get the medication, how to store the medication, how to drop the medication, how to give the injection is not adequate. Oftentimes urologists will prescribe this and they'll literally give you like a 5-minute rundown on how to do it, which is just not enough. We usually will spend a full hour with clients on how to do it and then troubleshoot going forward if there's issues with it. It's really something that does oftentimes take a little bit of time to find the right way to do it and the right mix of medications and what have you. But for the vast majority of clients, we can usually find a solution that will work for them.
Awesome.
Something else that sometimes interferes with sexual functioning for men is change in hormone levels. So specifically testosterone. So that's another area of a person's health that we will explore with people, especially if things have been working for a period effective time, and then for some reason they're just not working as effectively any longer. So that's where, yes, we do blood work. And at that point, we may, depending on the results, may end up getting Dr. Elliott involved to discuss some further options.
But yeah, certainly for anyone who would like to access our service, yeah, send in a referral, or if you're having trouble finding the referral form, email us, call us, and we'll make sure that we get you seen. Oh, I have that same hook, Christina. I love it.
I just got it.
I use it like every night. Yeah.
Yeah, and if anybody is struggling with, finding the referral form on our website, it's easy to access us on the main sort of about section of the website. There's a little bit down there that you can add your name and contact information, and one of the clinicians will follow up with you.
Yeah, or you can just email me and I can send it over to you or pass you off to Leslie and Rachel. So
Perfect.
Since we're just gonna have open questions, so I have a question regarding like aging and spinal cord injury, especially in particularly with women. So desire, pain. I've all of a sudden started getting pain during sexual intercourse. A whole bunch of things I think are going on that I just am assuming are hormonal related, but would love to hear what you guys think.
Okay, yeah. So this is an area that we're starting to look into a little bit more as far as aging with spinal cord injury and what that might bring about for people. And really, all we can sort of base that on is the regular population of people, right? And so we do know that for women specifically, yes, as we start to get a little bit older, our hormone levels change, specifically estrogen will drop, which can have an impact on our tissues. We start to get a little bit, maybe notice our skin's a little bit drier, a little bit looser. That can also be the case for the vagina. It just gets quite dry. So using lubrication, water soluble is what we typically recommend for people, and scent free. And there's lots of different options out there. But yeah, there's using the water soluble lubricants just to help protect the mucus lining. There's low dose estrogen creams that can be applied topically to the opening to the vagina.
Those can be quite effective. Of course, you need to be assessed by your doctor to make sure that it's safe for you and your particular medical history. But the estrogen creams applied to the vaginal opening, what can happen is it actually helps thicken your tissue, your vaginal tissue, as you age and with hormone changes, and even after pregnancy and birth. For maybe some of the females here who may have young babies, you may have noticed afterwards with changes with breastfeeding and hormones that change after pregnancy. The low estrogen actually causes a thinning of the vaginal tissue, which can make sexual intercourse painful. And sex shouldn't be painful. If it's painful, there's something that's not going right. So it's definitely something to be explored. But we know that issues like these can often be easily dismissed by doctors as well. The other thing to note, Terry, with aging and desire is such a complex issue. We know that sexual desire can be greatly impacted by the state of your health, of course, pain, and stressful things that might be happening in life. So anytime that you're having chronic stress in your life, it usually will put you into a sort of fight or flight or freeze mode, and deprioritize sexuality and intimacy down to the bottom of your list. Now, that's not the case for everybody. For some people, when they're stressed out, they want to have sex. Everybody's a little bit different, but usually that's the case, and there's no easy solution to creating a better context where sex is going to occur. It's usually things like, what can you do in your life to manage stress, to improve your physical health, to get more sleep, And yeah, there's no easy solution, but we know that for chronic stress, one of the best things out there that researchers say that you can do is to exercise, get your heart rate up. It's a way to discharge that chronic stress that builds up in life. Another thing you can do is dance or journal or self-care activities like doing your nails or your hair for guys, shaving. All those things have been shown in research to lower your stress hormones, and what works for each individual will be a little bit different. I know this seems like when I'm talking about it might have nothing to do with sexual health, but in reality, all of these things are really important to sexual health, because if you're super stressed out and all of these things are happening in your life where you're not feeling great about yourself physically, mentally, you're not going to be wanting to get an erection. You're not going to be wanting to have sex with your partner. You're not going to be wanting to masturbate. You're not. So there's not going to be much going on in that area for most people if other areas of your life are not working.
Yeah, so I think like the hardest part that I find is that balance, right? So oftentimes, like I do a lot of exercise, you know, I'm a pretty active person. I think like I have good self-care, but then I'm exhausted, right? So then I'm tired, so then my desire to put in effort to have sex is less, right? So, and not only that, obviously I've developed pain as well, so that doesn't help, right? So yeah, I mean, do you have like suggestion, like we're all busy people, like, you know, and yes, like, you know, I feel pretty good at myself in the morning, right? But I got to get a kid out to school and do all these things.
So one of the things that it sounds kind of terrible and not romantic and not sexy, but it works if you do it, is to schedule time for intimacy. And whether that be, it's going to be different for every person, so that whether that be 2 hours every month or an hour every week or 2 hours every 2 weeks. And when I say schedule time for intimacy, that doesn't mean necessarily sex, but it means time to be physically and intimately close with your partner in whatever way that you like, and that both of you know about it, and that you're not going to have any other activities going on. If you have kids, the kids are going to be taken care of. And it's just time for you guys to really chill out. And what can happen is, leading up to that time, both of you know it's coming and you kind of get mentally prepared for it. And for some people, and for most people, that can actually be a little bit of a turn on, because you're thinking about it. You know that morning you get up, you have a nice shower, you put on your nice underwear, for guys or boxers that don't have holes in them. And, you know, in the media and generally in society, when you see sexual activity happening, it's happening like spontaneously, like in a James Bond movie or whatever. Suddenly they're in the bathroom having sex, but we know that that's not reality. If you think about the best like sexual encounter that you ever had, likely there was some planning going on behind it, right? Likely you knew that you were maybe going on this date, and so you created a great context by setting the mood, having a nice dinner, nice lighting, nice music, you were dressed well, you didn't stink, you weren't eating like a bowl full of beans and you weren't gassy after, or whatever, right? So intentionally creating the right context for that activity to occur and really setting aside the time for it and making it a priority, I think is often the only way it's really going to happen for people who are really busy and have multiple barriers.
Yeah, thanks. That's great. Anybody else before I go back to the website? Or okay, I'm going back to the website in a minute. It just takes me a few clicks. Here we go. Sexuality 101, 101. Where do we start?
Where do we start? Well, maybe we talk. Owen here is a familiar face that probably a lot of you know. So what we've tried to include, I think we said this earlier as well, is really personal stories, the people who, you know, have lived experience, because we can maybe have the medical background information and provide some assistance when it comes to strategies and stuff, but really hearing people's personal stories and what they have done to kind of manage this part of their life is huge, and that's not anything we can really provide to people. So yeah, you can see here there's a couple of videos, and there's Terry.
All
right.
Another thing I wanted to say in terms of general sexuality and how people adapt and how people cope and what.
Hold on one second. I gotta. There we go.
And what their sex life might look like after an injury is, I think it largely depends on how rigid your views regarding sexuality were before your injury or just in general. So, and we know what that depends upon greatly is the sexuality education you received as a child growing up in school. What were the attitudes, values, and beliefs that were around you and in the adults that you looked up to as you were growing up? You know, if you grew up in a family where sex was considered something shameful or wasn't talked about, or perhaps depending on your spirituality or religion, how it's looked at, it can be difficult sometimes for people to adapt and think about sex in an open way and try new things when they have a spinal cord injury and things aren't working the way they used to work anymore. So the more open-minded and sex positive that you were before, usually the easier it is to adapt after a spinal cord injury. Yeah.
What do you think the biggest misconceptions are about spinal cord injury, like for new people?
I know one of the biggest things that we get from people is, you know, can I still have sex? And you can see actually that happens to be the number one question there, and under what do I need to know? And you know, that's a lot of people say, well, I can't feel anything, my body just isn't working the way I'm used to. I can't even imagine still being able to have a sexual life. So that's one of the biggest ones that we break down. Certainly, you know, you can still have a pleasurable sexual life. Things might be a little bit different. There might be a little bit more planning involved, maybe, you know, using medications, maybe having lots of pillows nearby to provide some extra support, being aware of how your body is responding to pleasurable touch. You know, when it comes to sensation changes, is being open to exploring alternate areas of your body where there is preserved sensation. And for some people where there's a higher level injury, you know, I've heard from a lot of patients that kissing has so much meaning to it now that they never really thought about before because they didn't pay as much attention. Now that that's maybe the only area that they feel on their body, or one of the few areas that they feel on the body, they get a lot of pleasure and arousing sensations from kissing, which can sort of be translated into some of those sexual sensations that you remember from prior to injury or illness.
Cool. Yeah, looks good.
Having children is another big one for people. You know, can I still, because we know that, you know, with neurological injuries, a lot of times it's a younger population. We're certainly seeing fluctuations in that, but I mean, a big thing for some of the younger people is, can I still have children? And for both men and women, yes, you still can have children. Women, typically it's a little bit easier. If there hasn't been any kind of pelvic trauma, your ability to conceive should remain unchanged from prior to your injury.
And it's kind of amazing, even in a rehab center such as GF Strong, the lack of information that clients receive after their injury. I see clients in my office who have had an injury for months and no one has told them or addressed that area until they see us. And I think that for a young woman of childbearing age, that should be addressed quite quickly. But anyhow, it's something that I think we need to work on in general in the medical community is, educating healthcare professionals so that those topics are addressed with clients.
for me, I'm the most worried. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the most worried about medication.
Oh, we just lost you there, Christina. But I think
About medication.
Yeah, so Christina, are you considering pregnancy in the future, or
Well, my doctor even, because I'm turning 35 at the end of this month, and my doctor's even suggesting that I freeze my eggs.
Mhm.
It's a possibility, and I want to know how to even do it, where to do it. An ex-boyfriend actually got kind of scared off because of my disability, and I didn't know what to tell him about
Right.
getting pregnant. He's like, yeah, but you're on so much medication. He's like, that would be so bad for the baby. And I'm like, I think it's okay, but.
So one of the resources that's available to you, it's called the pre-pregnancy clinic at the maternal fetal medicine clinic at Women's Hospital. So often for women with spinal cord injury or other complex medical needs who are on multiple medications, what you can do is get a referral to the pre-pregnancy clinic at Women's Hospital, and they can review your medical history and your medications and talk to you about planning for pregnancy and what that might look like for you in your particular situation. Certainly, there are common medications that women with spinal cord injury take that the benefits and risks of taking those medications need to be weighed. I know baclofen is a contentious one, and I know that there are women who have gone through pregnancies while taking baclofen and those who have stopped, and that certainly it can be a more difficult pregnancy than for an able-bodied woman in some cases, but also there are women who make it through their pregnancy with minimal issues. There's a wide variety out there of experiences. We had a panel of women actually recently at one of our events who talked about their experiences with pregnancy, and I'm wondering if I guess it wasn't recorded, but there's a resource actually might be a good time to introduce it. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Craig Hospital. So Craig, C-R-A-I-G, Craig Hospital. It's one of the big rehab centers in the US. I think it's in Georgia. Anyhow, they have a section for women specifically with spinal cord injury with videos of women with spinal cord injury and their experiences with pregnancy and also parenting, and they're really great. I think they actually came out just a couple of months ago. What we can do, Terry, maybe is we can send you an email after this, and then you can forward the email out to participants. Is that doable, or?
Absolutely. Yep, totally.
Okay. Oh, sorry, the Shepherd Center. It was the Shepherd
Center, the Shepherd Institute, that they're in Georgia.
I'll just wait for you to send the email.
Okay.
But yes, they have some great videos that they put out, educational videos in all different areas. So parenting with an injury, pregnancy, delivery. We also put out a really good booklet.
It's hard.
Pardon me?
It looks like being pregnant and a mom is hard. So trying to do it with a disability as well, with chronic pain, I'm like, is this even feasible for me?
Wow.
Yeah.
Cheryl had something to add there. Cheryl, you're muted right now. Do you want me to unmute you, or do you want me to read out? See if she can, if I can unmute her. No, she's muted right now. Anyways, finish your, Leslie and Rachel, finish your thought there.
Yeah, I just think for you, Christina, you know, you've got valid concerns for sure, right? I mean, pregnancies are not easy for anybody. You know, they certainly can take a toll on your body at times. But it's being connected with the right healthcare providers to sort of manage your care would be your best option. And really that maternal fetal medicine group at BC Women's Hospital is fabulous. And they do prefer connecting with women pre-pregnancy in that planning stage, just to talk to you, find out what medications you're on, which ones are to be you may want to be concerned about. Are there alternative medications that can provide the same somewhat benefits, but maybe a little healthier for the growing baby?
So Cheryl, sorry, Christina, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. If it would be okay to be referred, even if I'm not technically planning on having a kid specifically right now, but to arm myself with that information, do you think that they would mind if I just asked?
Not at all. No, not at all.
No, especially considering your age, right? So
And I want to be able to have those answers for a prospective boyfriend or whatever who wants to have kids. I can say, well, this is how it would go down, because I had no idea what to say to him, and I think that scared him off.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you deserve that knowledge, right? That's absolutely, you deserve that knowledge. Just like any other woman wants to know the risks of her pregnancy and what it's going to look like and have as much information as possible, so should you have that information.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you. That's good to know.
So Cheryl wanted me to let you guys know that she did lose 2 pregnancies before she had 2 kids. And after her second miscarriage, one of the doctors she met said that her medication was not good if she wanted to be pregnant. So she went off all that medication eventually, and including Baclofen. So in a span of about less than 8 months, the meds that she's been taking to address her pain, infections, spasms, she stopped taking them, and then a year and a half later got pregnant. Obviously, I guess, delivered your first boy, right? So
that must have been, wow. So having to deal for a year and a half with extra pain and spasticity, that's dedication to motherhood. Wow.
Yeah. And I've heard of this and others too. She says it's not an easy path to live in pain while waiting to be pregnant, but I was successful when my body was clean from meds. So I also know another woman, I don't know her experience about losing any pregnancies before having kids, but she did come off all medication. And she did say it was hell, in her opinion. I also went off all my medication as well. And I was really lucky that I didn't have, other than like incontinence issues, but they kind of sorted themselves out a bit later, and then I've never been on meds since. So funny enough, weird. And then Cheryl said that she does get depressed when when she didn't get pregnant that month, right? So yeah.
And I think that's why Women's Hospital is such a great resource, especially in the pre-planning phases. I don't know, Cheryl, if you had care at Women's, but for certainly anyone with a history of depression or anxiety, those things can be exacerbated by trying to get pregnant or being a parent, and they have great mental health resources available at Women's.
Mm-hmm. They do, yeah. That's what I went through. I know Cam wanted to ask a question from his previous comment earlier, question here.
Sure.
Oh, so yeah, I just had one more thing to add. That I've been meaning to call you, Rachel, but I just haven't. And then
that's okay.
Tara told me about you. I thought I would ask today.
I was gonna let you know you're permanently banned from our program, but I guess I'll let you back in.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Now, this Prostin stuff that I've been trying. Okay, I just had a quick question. Right now, I'm up to about 2.5 cc's, and I'm just wondering, what's the max dose before you have to talk about maybe getting a stronger prescription or something? I don't really know if that's even possible.
Yeah, Cameron. I believe that you're on the 10 micrograms per mil is the standard, right? I believe 20 micrograms per mil, which is the standard, and so I would need to double check that that's the potency of the medication. But should that be the case, you still have quite a bit of wiggle room. You can usually go up to a full 1 cc syringe worth.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Some of us have our own sort of ideas, but typically, like Dr. Elliott has said, patients can go right up to a full syringe worth of the injectable medication before she might consider trialing a different formulation. So there are different formulations, different strengths. There's bi-mix, tri-mix, even a quad mix.
Keep in mind, Cameron, that if you're going to be adjusting the dose of your medication, I'm not sure if you still have it, but if you don't, I will send it to you. There is a specific way to titrate that medication upwards based on your response. So it may have been a while since you've looked at that. So if you would like to try and increase dose, we can schedule another appointment on the phone and can talk about where to go forward with that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I was just wondering because we're up to 2.5 and I haven't really had much success yet.
Yeah, that's
So-
probably because it's quite a low dose still. So
Yeah.
Is it?
yeah.
Okay, I don't know. I kind of, it's been a while since we've actually talked about it. So
Yeah, no worries. We can always revisit that and talk about where to go from there.
okay, could I just call you directly and set up an appointment to come in and see you, or what channel do I have?
Email would be best to catch me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll do that then. I just wanted to touch base while you guys were here.
Sounds
So
good, Cameron.
okay.
What are your usual recommendations for someone when they're just like getting started? Like now I'm sort of feeling comfortable with my body to maybe explore, to, I remember how scary it was like dating for the first time. Like, oh God, what if this guy wants to have sex? Like, what am I going to even tell them? Like, and I remember going out on dates where I offered up maybe too much information and they said it was a turnoff, but then also at the same time felt maybe some education with your partner was necessary, right? Like, so I don't know. Leave it to you guys.
So yeah, that's you do need to kind of be a bit vulnerable, right? Put yourself in a vulnerable position, get yourself out there, try different things. And we do hear that from people. I didn't say very much and it was a disaster, or I said too much and it was a disaster. So, and it all depends on the person that you're meeting with as well, right? And if I always encourage, start off slowly, get to know each other, go out for a few dates, and the person that you're with is likely going to have a lot of questions that they want to have answered. So, just you'll find your way to sort of answer those questions. And certainly, again, sometimes it's good. I've even encouraged people to sit together and go through our website, look at the different areas so that it can help the other person get a bit of an idea as to what you're experiencing on a regular basis. Because you're right, people have no idea. They think, okay, you've got a spinal cord injury, your legs don't move, but they don't know anything else beyond that.
Yeah.
I actually found this book at a thrift store the other day, but it's called Aches, Pains, and Love, or screen just went pink. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's our connection. I don't know if Ryan's still there, or not, but he just, it's that.
Oh, okay. But it's a guide to dating and relationships for those with chronic pain or illness. It does have a section in here about disclosure and disclosing your condition. And as Leslie said, there's no specific or correct answer to that. It's going to depend very much on the individual, where you are in life, where you met this person, and what you're looking for, right? But this is a book with somebody who has chronic pain and illness, and her journey and her tips for dating and disclosure and meeting people and how to go about that. So it's another resource that we can send you, Terry, and you can pass along.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks. All right, you want me to go back to the website?
Sure. Unless there's any questions that anyone might have.
Or personal stories you want to
personal
share?
Story, yeah.
I was going to share my my horrible dating experience. Not horrible, but hold on. I was going to share like when I did a lot of online dating, right? So that's kind of how I started after my injury. And I remember dating like a couple guys, and I'm like, okay, so if we have this is date one. If we have sex, I could pee on you, I could poo on you, I have no control over my body, like anything could happen. I have no idea. Yeah. So those.
Oh no, Terry, no.
Yeah. Yeah. But then at the same time, I have also said that I probably haven't met a man, because I'm in like a heterosexual relationship, that probably very few would say, no, I'm not interested in having sex even after all those conditions. So
Exactly.
And as what you're doing now and what you likely did back then, having a sense of humor and using humor is a great tool if you're able to go there to discuss uncomfortable topics, make topics that seem impossible or really difficult to discuss a lot easier, a lot lighter. If you can laugh about something, it's just, I have found from clients and their experiences and their stories that that's a great way to disclose and to talk to partners about their medical issues and how that might impact relationships.
Yeah.
And during sexual exploration, right? Like if something goes wrong and, penis goes in an ear or whatever, if you can laugh about it, then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And actually I do that kind of brought up another question that I had about like self-exploration and AD. So that's one of the things that terrifies me, because I do get autonomic dysreflexia through sex and orgasm. So I'm a bit paranoid when it comes to masturbation, because I don't want to, be by myself and then have something go wrong and not be able to control it.
Right. Yeah, and that being aware of your own body's response to stimulation is super important, right? Knowing, I've had people tell me, I'm dysreflexic from my bladder. I know what it is, because sometimes people have different body sensations. That's an indication it's bowel versus bladder versus potentially something else, sexual stimulation. So, as much as it might not be super sexy, we do encourage, during some of these self-exploration times, get a blood pressure cuff. You can get the little monitors, home monitors, and check and see how your body is responding during stimulation. And again, we always encourage people, if things are not feeling great, stop. Allow your body to come back to its kind of resting state again, and you can try again. But we do know that as arousal builds and orgasm is about to take place, that's like the peak of blood pressure for everybody. And unfortunately, with spinal cord injury, it's just not able to kind of shut itself off, and it might continue to spike to a pretty significant level.
Right.
I don't know if I really answered your question. It is, that's one thing that we're constantly monitoring during penile vibration trials is we've got men hooked up to blood pressure cuffs. So we're monitoring pulse and blood pressure, constantly talking to the person to see how they're feeling, how their body's responding. But yeah, it certainly is something you need to be aware of.
In that library of videos that I had mentioned earlier are around women discussing their sexual experiences and pregnancy and parenting and so forth. In one of them, there is a woman who talks about her experience with AD during sexual stimulation and how over time she's come to realize like what is a safe level of AD and what is an unsafe level of AD. So for some people, people are going to do what they're going to do at home. some people are able to realize that, you know, a low level of AD may be okay, and that is, for some people, they actually say that adds to their sexual experience, depending on how your body responds to that. It just heightens things a little bit for them, I guess. But yeah, safety is number one. And so if you know that you get bad AD, like Leslie said, the blood pressure cuff idea is probably a good idea if you're going to be trying new things.
Yeah. Okay.
On that note, though, of self-exploration and masturbation, highly recommended. If you don't know how to make yourself feel good and what feels good for your own body, how are you going to tell someone else? So highly recommended. But if you are at risk for AD, and if you are going to be using something like vibration, we also do have a vibrostimulation clinic at our Blesson Spinal Cord Center, as Leslie said, where if you're curious about your potential for, if you're a man, for ejaculation, and you want to know that if this is something safe, we actually do vibrostimulation trials there, where our doctor will hook you up to a blood pressure cuff, see if this is something safe for you to do at home. So not the most comfortable setting for everybody, we understand that, but for the medical professionals who are there and involved, it's a pretty routine thing, and it's really just another medical procedure. So yeah.
And there might be recommendations to have some medication on hand to help lower your blood pressure should AD kind of be continuing for a while and you're just not feeling any relief from symptoms. And we always have those on board during our trials, our stimulation trials as well.
Do you have that option for women as well?
I know that men and women who are prone to AD are typically encouraged to have some of these medications like captopril and nifedipine on hand at home for certain situations where you are dysreflexic and blood pressure is continuing to stay fairly high, not coming down, regardless of trying to relieve symptoms. So yes, for both men and women, that's typically recommended.
Mm-hmm. I meant like it, is it possible to be in a clinical setting and women to use vibration or stimulation of some kind, so if they're concerned about safety?
That's a really good question, Terry. It hasn't ever come up, but it would be something that I wouldn't mind maybe asking Dr. Elliott about. Mm-hmm. Because you're right. Why should, we know the same situation is going to happen for women during stimulation. Why are we not maybe looking into that? That might be something, that we could start to look into.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Yeah.
Awesome. Jeff, you had a question? Oh, Christina. Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
Okay?
Yeah, go for it.
One thing I wanted to let you guys know, because like you said, you like to know about people's experiences and how they might change. I don't know if it was just time and maybe my nerves regrew in a sense, but I wasn't able to orgasm after my accident for 10 years. And then I don't know exactly what changed because I didn't do anything different really, but suddenly I'm able to now. So
wow.
Yeah.
So no change in your medication?
Well, not really, no. So I would periodically try over the 10 years and then get frustrated and stop because it never worked. And then I did go in and see, what's her name? She works out of iCord.
Oh, Shay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she basically said the same thing that I'd been told before. It's just, there's no magic answer to this. Just sort of explore. Accept any sort of feeling whatsoever. And then, I don't know. So no real changes in my medication.
Do you think that you had maybe a change in your mindset or expectations, like during sexual activity?
Sorry, I didn't hear that because of the ringing that happened.
I'm muted, Lori, there. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that often times, like you said, you were getting frustrated over the years, right? And trying and not having success. And sometimes that can become a bit of a negative feedback loop or a cycle in which your frustration actually adds to the difficulty, and turns on that little stressful part of your brain that
Like it's not
blocks.
going to work anyway. Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
perhaps giving it some time or being in a different mind frame.
Or I also don't know if it was if the muscles were weaker, because I sort of explain it like it's like kind of climbing the mountain, right? And then suddenly you get the cliff and you jump off the cliff. And so I would be trying and I would be climbing the mountain and I would be starting to go up the mountain, and then suddenly it's like, boom, I'm in the prairies, like flat. And I was, it's like, what happened? There's nothing left. Like, and then finally one day it actually did do the cliff, and it was the weirdest thing because I actually thought like I thought I had hallucinated or something. I was like, and it was also interesting because it's almost like my body didn't understand. Like, it was weird because at first, how you get the euphoria afterwards? I didn't have that. It was just like I had this amazing sensation and suddenly it was just, again, flat. Like there was no, it was the weirdest thing. But as time has progressed, it's like my brain is like, oh yeah, now I remember this. And it's giving me the euphoria after as well. It's been a really weird experience.
Like you said, it's like your brain remembering, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's about that neuroplasticity in your brain remembering, and probably the more you have orgasms, the more those networks in your brain grow and expand, and it becomes easier as you practice more.
I'm just super grateful. I feel like the universe is like, you've been through enough. Got this back. Like,
but as you say, right, it can be such a mystery. That's like, it's kind of an awesome part, but also a frustrating part of our job as like medical professionals. You want to be able to tell someone to do A, B, C, D, or if you did this, it's because of this. But there's so many different layers and complex factors when it comes to desire and sexual health and orgasm and all the things that affect that sometimes it's like, who knows, but if it's working, then great, just keep doing what you're doing.
My theory is that it was time, like because I'm also getting in more pain and I have more spasticity, and the physiatrist was suggesting that's the double-edged sword of healing, is that my nerves have grown back some.
Right.
So I wonder if it's parallel, like if I'm able to now because of the same reason I'm having more pain. But I just wanted to mention to you guys.
It's great to let people know that, right? Because sometimes people a year out or whatever from their injury, they think that that's it, right? And I always tell people that there's room for change, right? So
for change, but definitely, yeah. When I was
just good to keep exploring.
Yeah, they kind of said that once you hit a point, that's it for the rest of your life, is what I was told, but that's not true.
No, I agree. It's not true. I think our bodies are continuing to change over time, and it's also, like Rachel had said as well, mindset plays a big factor as well.
Especially I know, yeah.
Yeah, you can go into these situations and the outcome hasn't been positive. So, it's like, okay, you go through the motions without really paying attention to the potential pleasure that you could be experiencing, right?
Yeah.
So shifting that mind from a specific goal that this is what you want to achieve to, let me just really appreciate what I'm feeling right now. Which,
that's what Shay said as well, and that my body might be talking to me just very quietly. So you just to listen to it a little bit, like just be very just quiet.
Yeah, this is a book that Terry may be useful for you and things going on in your life, but also Christina, for anyone like you, or for it says it's for women, but it could be for anyone. This is actually by Dr. Lori Brotto. This book, someone who works in the sexual medicine department, kind of alongside us, and it's how basically you can have better sexual experiences and cultivate more desire in your life through mindfulness. So could be a good resource out there. If that book is not of particular interest to you, we have several other books about mindfulness that I can pass on, which I think can be a huge resource in terms of being able to experience pleasure without that number one goal of having to have an orgasm. And if you don't have an orgasm, it's not worth it, because we know that if that is your number one goal and you are thinking about that the entire time during a sexual interaction,
It actually
it's just going to take away from the experience and not allow you to fully experience and feel what's going on in the moment.
Can you send an email with all these book suggestions and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll even send, we can send out a link to mindfulness resources that we often will pass on to people. It's things that you can download onto your iPad, your phone, and just practice a little bit of mindfulness, get
Like
a little bit more
meditation?
awareness as to what mindfulness is all about. It's so helpful as far as, relieving stress,
Mhm.
pain, lowering anxiety,
Right, for depression.
and great for depression, absolutely.
I have a point to make.
Yeah, go for it, Jeff.
I've been on numerous dates. I do the online dating because I don't find any other way to work well for me. And all of them tend to run for the hills because I don't disclose that I'm in a wheelchair. They see it in a pub or something and they're gone, like in a shot. Like, why didn't you? What's the matter with you? Like, and I'm like, because if I told you, you wouldn't be here, right? Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's a difficult one to navigate, Jeff. And I've heard that before from individuals as well, that they don't want to disclose that because they feel like they deserve the opportunity for someone to get to know them first.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part about that one is, as just thinking about it, if that happened to me, I would feel lied to. I would feel so that would actually be the thing that would negate me more than the chair itself. Just the fact that I felt lied to.
You mean lied to that I'm in a chair, or lied to
That
in what way?
that you didn't disclose it, that it wasn't, that you weren't upfront.
Well, do you have to disclose it? Like,
So for me, because it is complicated, and like they say, there's no exact right answer. But the method that I found that works best for me is to not necessarily, like, sometimes I will just blatantly say it straight out, and sometimes I'll have a couple conversations and then I'll bring it up in the conversation. Because what I've noticed too is that if the person's gonna care about the chair, then you don't want them anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's more like a vetting process for you.
Yeah, you're making a good point there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think, Christina, what you're saying as far as, having a few chats with that person, getting to know them, building up a little bit of that rapport with each other, and then, gently disclosing little bits and pieces, because I do agree. I mean, I think it would be, you would feel somewhat lied to, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this person. I didn't know that you were in a wheelchair, and I'm just really surprised that, if I had some awareness of that, it might have settled my initial response.
And I asked them, like, each one of them that told me exactly what you're saying, that I was lied to. How many of you would have come to a date if I was in a chair? And out of 9 of them said they would all not come.
See, but then you don't want those ladies anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a good point too.
And they could have just been mad also, like,
yeah.
Maybe, especially if you're having discussions with the person, like, so I've tried both with online dating, disclosing within my profile and then not disclosing, right? I kind of got the same results, to be honest with you, but at some point in time within the conversation that I had, I would disclose that I had a disability.
I'm doing flow disclosure now.
Yeah, so I mean,
I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, and because you don't just, see someone online and then are like, hey, let's meet for coffee. And then, well, I mean, I guess some people do, but before meeting for coffee, you can just be like, hey, just so you know, I'm in a wheelchair, I
think what some clients have told me as well is that there can be there can be a better way to frame things as well. So instead of, not that you necessarily would do this, but trying to, you know, yes, mention you're in a wheelchair, but talk about all the things that you like to do, what your interests are, what you like to do in your spare time, what you can do, where you can go, instead of saying, I'm in a wheelchair, I can't do this, I can't go there, I can't do this, I can't do this. It's just, you know, I have a disability, I'm in a wheelchair. These are all the things that I really enjoy and that I like to do.
That's a great.
I put sassy but in a chair. Yeah. And that seems to be working.
Humor really helps. I've noticed that the men who use humor are way more attractive to me than, you know, just a technically attractive man. Like, humor goes so far, I think.
Yes, it does.
I know myself, I'm not physically in a wheelchair, but I am disability. I do, you know, walk with a cane. I broke my neck, whatever. I try to, you can pretty much talk to somebody and feel them out within the first 5 minutes of talking to them, if they're even going to physically talk to you about your disability. You know, so it's better to be upfront and be as truthful as you can, man, because it shows a lot about yourself and your strengths if you're willing to talk about your disability. Because physically, you know, I've been like this for 10 years. I don't know about you guys, but it's really important to be upfront and gain trust. It's key.
I find that I'm playing a broken record, that I'm tired of discussing it. It's been 17 years. And, you know, it's like, again. Yeah. So that's just where I'm at with that.
You don't.
That's just like a straight up frustration that we have to do. It's the same thing about how we're forced in the position of ambassadors for disabilities, and we're educators now, whether we want to be or not. It's just one of the shitty parts about having a disability.
I've had pretty good luck on meeting women that are interested. I'm engaged, and, you know, I met her about 1.5 years ago, and she's been very forthcoming on everything with me about, and it's been awesome.
Yeah.
So they are out there. You just got to be truthful.
Yeah.
Some guys are super good about it. Some guys are less. Some guys are scared crapless and they just run away. And yeah, I've had the variety.
Yeah.
It's kind of a numbers game.
Sometimes they're creepos that love chicks in chairs or guys in chairs too. So
what they call the devotees, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting subculture, and I know there's a lot of differing opinions on that as well too. Like, I've heard like some disability activists say, well, able-bodied people are fetishized for different reasons. Why can't somebody with a disability be fetishized as long as both parties are okay with it and they're respecting them in all other parts of the relationship? I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't know. It's an interesting subsect of the population out there.
Personally, I'm always of the mind that as long as the people involved are good with it, then have at her. And as long as you're not hurting other people in any way, as long as it's consented, great, have fun, enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I think that what a lot of you have shown through, like, what your experiences that you've told me, is that a lot of you have resilience. Cameron, Jeff, Christina, with your stories and all the dates you've been on and meeting people who run for the hills, like, that's a difficult thing to deal with rejection, right? And I think that dealing with rejection with grace and humility and having that ability to go back and try again and say, you know what, it's not me, it's them, is something that is going to get too far. And it can be hard, but yeah, I don't know. I can't give any specific tips for building that skill, but I know that for the clients that I meet that are able to go out and find relationships, that's a quality that they have, is that resilience, right? To just go out and keep meeting people and not taking things, I don't know if I want to say not taking them personally, but realizing that, you know, not everyone out there is going to want to be with someone with a disability, just like not everyone out there is going to want to be with someone who maybe has short hair or dark hair or many other physical attributes, right? Or things that might make people their mental illness or yeah.
I have found that I am seeing a quadriplegic a bit now. And as actually, she seems to be the best that I've ever met because she understands what I've been through. I understand somewhat what she's been through. So we're both kind of damaged goods, if you want to say that. And it just seems to work right now.
Experience, colorful, textured. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
You are who you are.
And I have heard that from clients as well, that, you know, that at first they didn't want to date somebody else with a disability because how is that going to work? Like practically I need someone who's able-bodied to help me with things around the house. But there certainly are couples where both people in the relationship are disabled, and they just find that having that partner who has that point of view and experience and empathy is worth more to them in the end than having somebody who's able-bodied. So I think that's another option that initially some people sort of pass off, and then realize that maybe the benefits that you can gain from a relationship with somebody who has a disability outweigh the downfalls.
And I also think venues like this are so helpful for people. You know, you're sharing your stories. A lot of you have had similar situations take place, and you're bouncing off ideas from each other, learning from each other. So kudos to you, all of you.
I always say for people who say they don't want to date another person in a chair or whatever, because I've had relationships with men in chairs and men who are able-bodied and men with all sorts of different disability, like whatever. And I'm like, how can I say that I wouldn't date someone that's different, right? Like that's my ultimate insult to myself. If someone says, well, I wouldn't date you if you were in a chair, well, that's what I'm saying to anybody else, right? So I feel that I'm probably one of the most open people to dating whoever. I believe that if, especially, this is my rule of thumb, especially when you're first dating, I very rarely did I say no, because I've always gotten an experience out of that, you know, date that I went on, right? And I vetted them within that communication, and I felt no rejection at that point when they said, oh, I didn't want to, if they found out in our discussions that I was in a wheelchair, or when I told them. And then I didn't feel rejected, because I didn't feel like I spent my time to get to a location and meet for coffee and then have them leave, right? I've already vetted that out, and if they're at that point willing to meet me, well, it's worth my time now, right? Yeah, okay, I'm willing to meet you, and I love meeting new people. So most of them were unsuccessful, like as far as relationships went, but it gets you closer to meeting and finding that right person, right?
And sometimes you might make a friend out of it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
And you're always learning from every experience as well.
I think sometimes online dating can be awkward because you go in and you expect there to be this romantic connection with someone you don't even know, right? So I think sometimes coming with a pretense of, hey, you want to meet and get to know each other as friends, and then see where that might go or might not go. Because if you can't be friends first, then likely it's not going to go anywhere. I'm cognizant of time, Terry. I don't know if we need to.
I'm okay. Peter, how are you guys doing? I have someone walking my son home, so.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I don't
yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I don't have appointments, so if people want to chat more, have more questions. Yeah, there's, like I said, there's just so much. And I love hearing everyone's stories. I don't really want to hear myself talk anymore, but I want to hear.
I think
Lori had something to say there.
I think Lori has something to say.
I wanted to mention I saw a movie with my cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
The program is called Look Into This Heart. It's made by a guy with disabilities, and it's about disability, sex, and love.
Look
That
into
sounds
this.
really great, Lori. Maybe you could send that information to Terry for everyone to take a look at. I know there's a lot
I
of.
can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's so many great documentaries and videos that people are making now around disability and sexuality and dating and love. And yeah, that would be great for you to share with us. I know there's a few. Has anyone seen the show on Netflix recently that follows a guy with cerebral palsy and his experiences dating?
I have.
Hi, Christina. What's it called? What's it called?
Oh, you just mentioned it the other day.
Never heard of it.
Obviously, it's a little bit. His experience is a little bit different because he's not as visually disabled, but it's quite funny. And one of the big themes of that show is disclosure, because it takes him a long time to come to the point where he feels that he can disclose his disability. He lies and tells everyone that he was hit by a car instead of telling them he has cerebral palsy.
Interesting. Before, while
It's
you're
called Special.
it's called what?
It's called Special.
I'm gonna add that to my
Look
list.
for it.
What a name.
Is there anything specifically on the website you guys wanted me to show?
There was a video we were thinking of showing. It's kind of long though. It's 8 minutes, and it's something that you guys could just watch in your own spare time. So it's kind of up to you guys if you wanted to watch it together during the session or after, or just chat more.
What are you guys feeling?
I'm actually I gotta go because I'm at work. But thank you so much, and this was a great chat.
Sounds
You're
good.
welcome, Christina.
Thanks, Christina.
Take care. Bye.
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 Do you guys want me to show the video, or do you? That's more.
You can do anything you want.
I can show where it is. How about we do that? And then-
Yeah, I think it's highlighted in a few different areas in the website.
It could also be good to watch and then have some discussion about it afterwards.
Yeah, relationships, sexual self-image. And just scroll down. I think it was there as well.
I've never
Yeah,
even
there we go.
Oh, this guy, Mark Zupan. Is that Mark Zupan? No. That's not, I don't know who that is.
I don't know. This was the Shepherd Institute
Oh, yeah.
that put this video together, and it's terrific.
Okay. We're going to watch it, and then maybe it will allow us to have more in-depth discussion.
Intimacy starts for me with feeling comfortable with someone, and to feel like there's a free exchange of emotional connection.
Intimacy means different things with different relationships that you have with folks.
The intimacy that we have as brothers, I can tell them pretty much what I want to. A close friend with my parents.
Being there with each other is intimate to me.
With my children.
He put his head on my chest. Nothing better than that.
There are intimate acts of kindness. Both of our families are very close, I would say. They just show emotions in a different way.
My dad gives me the opportunity to feel vulnerable anytime I'm with him.
Well, it's definitely different with a lover.
You know, just caress her hair. Touching, hugging, kissing.
There's the sexual aspect of intimacy.
Letting someone in. Totally. Into your life, your emotions, your everything.
Is it something?
I was injured in 1979, had a diving accident, was smart about checking the water before I dove, but still ended up hitting a rock underneath the water.
Injured 8 months ago, I believe.
C7 injury.
Broke my C5.
I'm a T5. Paraplegic.
It was a T5, T6. I'm a C6, C7 incomplete quadriplegic.
A T5 and also a C5.
And I felt that I wasn't myself. You have to kind of start over and and figure out who you are in this new body.
Before injury, I wasn't insecure about much. But after my injury, I'm insecure about a lot of things.
I felt completely alone, and it didn't really matter who was around me.
It almost makes you kind of numb to everything around you.
That is a time where I couldn't accept intimacy.
I lacked intimacy in a time in which I probably needed it the most.
I had doubts about whether or not I would be able to be intimate again.
I did have a boyfriend at the time of my injury, and he broke it off.
Am I going to be able to enjoy intimacy?
When Greg was still in ICU, and we had like our first time alone together, he said, I don't even know if we'll be able to have sex again, or make love, or have kids, or anything.
It made me second guess myself. It made me think, you know, am I even meant to do this anymore?
Society says, in order for you to be attractive, this is what the definition is. And I didn't see someone like me.
Scoliosis is really bad, the foot drop, you know, just all the weird physical limitations that I had now.
After I got hurt, I thought, wow, every time I see myself in the reflection in like a store window, I think, man, sit up and stop slouching, and what is with that belly, and smile, for God's sake.
The whole thing is you lose the confidence.
I couldn't accept anyone like close to me in an intimate way because I didn't accept myself.
I wanted to have someone really like me and be comfortable with who I was as a person.
I want it to be, you know, authentic. I want it to be good.
I couldn't figure out where love and intimacy fit.
I think it was good for me to be single for a year or so.
You have to definitely accept yourself and be okay with who you are so you can accept somebody else in your life.
By nature, I think a spinal cord injury, the way you view yourself and the way you think other people see you, it encourages you to develop the soft skills.
Definitely ready to mingle. We're ready to get out there and, you know, meet some folks.
It's very possible and fun to go out and just be a normal 22-year-old, you know?
I tried online dating, me for a date, and it's like, oh, you use a wheelchair? I didn't know that. You have a cute face picture, but that's it. And so then I posted a picture of me in my chair, and I got no responses.
The wheelchair kind of skins out all the people you don't want to be with anyways.
My first date ever was after my injury because I had my stroke at 12.
I think we're definitely a better couple now than we were before the accident.
To the point where we feel more comfortable with each other and ultimately more comfortable being intimate altogether.
This injuries actually brought us really close together.
How do we love each other physically? And it was a hard question because it's not something you typically had to ask people about.
I want to hug her really bad.
The first time that I've ever had sex after the injury, that was awkward.
The first time that Cameron and I attempted to be intimate, it was actually pretty emotional for me. You know, we started, you know, kissing, cuddling, and you know, I wasn't able to, you know, do the things that I wanted to do.
The first time that we actually got to do it after the injury, it's like the first time all over again.
We had the light way in the back, and I thought, okay, I'm going to put my arms up like this. So then I could stretch my body so it looks longer and leaner and my boobies look higher up.
I want to be able to physically express myself.
It is hard to
not cry.
Now and then I feel like, oh God, I totally messed that up. The leg was supposed to go here, and now we're on the floor. But, you know, I started to realize after a while, like, he's cool with it.
I think at the beginning I was just so apologetic, but now it's like, oh, that's our dance.
It's kind of like exploring sex all over again.
Inventive ways to have sex. It's been an adventure.
We're doing things
again and again until something works.
Learning to be intimate again with each other, it was kind of like the first time, like the excitement that
It was,
comes
yeah.
with the first time.
After we started to kind of figure it out, it really wasn't. It's not pretty all the time either. There's like some times where, you know, you're just like, you know, it's like you just totally faceplant or something like that. Something awful happens, or dare I say, you might fart.
It might have happened. Be daring enough to make mistakes, because when you look back, those are the gems. They really, really are. You know, and it's delightful when you're in the midst of it. But without that, we never learn.
You go to the pool, you a toe dipper, or do you dive in? Right? You just jump in. I just backflip into the pool. And with intimacy, that's what you got to do. You can't dip your toe in and figure it. Like, you just got to go for it. You got to give it your all. Things don't work out right the first time. Get out the pool and jump in again.
What do you have to lose? Go to the hottest chick in the bar. What you gonna say? No. Okay.
Embrace the suck and move forward.
Give it a shot whenever you're ready, and it doesn't happen. There's no time period on that. It's whenever you're ready and whenever you feel comfortable. But you shouldn't be afraid of it.
You need to be loved and show love. It's just human nature.
We're all human. We need intimate relationships.
That's when real intimacy occurs, is when you are vulnerable and open enough to experience something completely new with someone that you love. You know, that's when farting in the middle of it doesn't make a bit of difference, because that's just part of your own dance, you know.
That was cool.
Wow. That was good.
Yeah.
It's so true.
The Oriental girl thinks a lot like me. I noticed.
Funny. Yeah, it kind of definitely. It kind of got me thinking actually of even just intimacy within our like friendships and, you know, our parents, our family. You know, I was in a relationship before my injury that ended very quickly after. And I lived in a pretty superficial world of, as a lot of you probably know, of fashion industry and dancing. And I felt like I had to reinvent myself. But the thing that I think that what I hope is changing now, but I question, is that feeling of becoming your disability and losing your sexuality in the beginning, and you know, trying to find that. Like I didn't even feel like I was a woman anymore. Like now I'm a quadriplegic, right? I'm not even a gender. Right. And that's how I felt that people treated me within the hospital system. Like it was so like, you know, well, you're a quad, you can only do this and this and this. Right. It wasn't, hey, you're a person or you're a woman. Now, granted, I got hurt 24 years ago, so hopefully things have changed. But even when I go to like my doctors now and things like that, I feel like they're always treating my SCI and not like me as a person. Like, I don't know what you guys think about that, but
I agree. It just seems like everybody just thinks that you're not capable. Like, I need to help you. I don't need help. If I want help, I'll ask. You know, I'm capable. I can do just about anything that I used to be able to do. It just takes me a little bit longer. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Terry, in terms of what you were saying about like femininity and your self-view and how you see yourself in the world, like that's something that I see commonly with clients, especially I think in the months following injury, and hospitalization in general can really strip that personhood away from someone. You're often not wearing your own clothes, or if you are, they're not the clothes that you would typically want to be wearing, and maybe they aren't fitting you anymore. you're not able to do your makeup the way you want to. For men, maybe you're not able to shave, and yeah, it has such a huge impact on people, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot more lately, and what we can do better, like working in somewhere like GF Strong. Like, you know, this woman said that there's one particular aide who during her shifts will help her draw on her eyebrows, and how much that means for that woman to look in the mirror and see her face with her eyebrows that she's used to seeing on. And I understand that nurses often, you know, have trouble doing the bare minimum, but you know, is there another way that we can address that and make sure that people are getting those needs met so that, you know, they feel good about themselves during a time that's already so hard? Like, what can we do to make that easier?
I had a really, I was pretty close to like Terry 17 years ago. It was the same way. I didn't feel that I was male or female. I just felt like I was it.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some people that are in hospital now, and that's totally changed. You are treated the way you are, like your gender. But for me, I was just existing then anyway. So, you know, it's better now, I believe, from what I can see. But back then it was weird.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot more awareness, and there's been a culture shift around treating a person as a whole in the medical system. It's certainly not perfect, and I always think there's more that can be done. And yeah, I think that like in terms in relation to intimacy, it's almost like your intimacy with yourself, right? Like can be changed and can be stripped away. Like yeah, your sense of self, it gets all, from what people have told me, it just becomes a bit fragmented, and yeah, it can be quite, I think, disorienting. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have been very meaningful for me in the beginning, was to be able to, like, I mean, I had to get my head shaved because I had the halo brace on, right? So that was just horrendous enough, right? But thankfully I had like one girlfriend who, she knew me so well. She would come and wash my hair for me and put makeup on. I couldn't move my arms at first when I had my injury. She would tie a scarf around my halo and take me out. And, you know, so just those little things like that for sure within the hospital system, they were not willing to do at that time. Like, you know, God forbid even put on makeup, right? You know, I had never even owned a pair of running shoes in my whole entire life, right? So, and then, you know, when I was in the hospital, it was like, well, you got to wear comfortable, you know, clothing with no pockets or, you know, nothing that's going to cause pressure injuries. And I was like, are you, what? Like, I have to buy a whole new wardrobe just for my rehab stay? That's crazy.
Yeah, and I have to admit, the one thing that I thoroughly enjoyed when I was working on the floor was helping people just present themselves the way they're used to. So, you know, right down to brushing your teeth, like leaving your room without brushing your teeth is awful. So, you know, then those little things have such a huge benefit and so meaningful for people. You know, I remember this one gentleman we had, and I love this story because I just remember this change in him. He had come to us, and he had this, you know, long hair. He'd been in hospital for a while, longer hair, a beard. So we took him down for a shower one night, and the nurse that I was working with at the time, he was on a ventilator, so we had two people in showering him. And she just had him say, you know, have you always had a beard? And his response was, no, I just, you know, nobody's shaved me and I haven't asked anybody. And then she said, well, what about your hair? Do you always wear it that length? And he said, no, again, you know, I just haven't had my hair cut. So we went to town on him, shaved him, his hair the way he liked to have his hair done. And what a difference. He smiled. That was the first time I'd ever seen that gentleman smile. And to see him, you know, coming down the hallway and just like change in his confidence, you know, and that's so significant because you're not asked to be in hospital. You have no choice. And I think it's important to allow you some choices. And if that choice is having your makeup put on, having your hair done, they're huge. Just little things that make you feel like yourself again.
Mohi, I see that you have your hand up there.
Hi all, how are you?
Good.
Good. Okay, I have a couple questions, and Leslie and Rachel may help me. And I would like to know that how much is the cost for a sperm extraction by the electroejaculation method, and how much for the freezing?
So good questions. The actual procedure itself, if you have a spinal cord injury, is no charge. The charge comes with all the assistive stuff afterwards. So the freezing, I believe to freeze a sample and have it analyzed is approximately $600.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is an annual freezing or storage fee that you have to pay as well, which I believe is $200 now. But I think that the initial taking the sample to the fertility clinic, having it analyzed and frozen is approximately $600.
Depending on a situation, though, the freezing isn't always necessary. Like if you have a partner and it's safe to do that, sometimes we can figure out if it's safe for people to do the procedure at home, and if they're able to do the procedure at home, there's other methods. So it's, yeah.
Okay, you know, I had 2 IVF and a session in Iran, and it failed after one in a month and the other one 2 months, and they
Oh, I think Mohi.
We lose him?
Yeah, he's frozen. Uh-oh.
Say the doctor. Anyway, just I'm interested right now. I don't have anyone to do that, for example, for going for the pregnancy or something like that. And just I want to know that how much does it cost, and for freezing and extraction and so. Okay, great information. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You cut out there for a little bit, but I think we caught the tail end there. Yeah. Anybody else have anything? Any other questions or things to add? No? Awesome.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think, should we say goodbye for now?
Sure, I think
I'm going to run for the hills.
I feel like we could do this again. Like,
I know, this was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
That was great. Thank you, everybody.
I don't know if this is similar to some of the other types of conversations that you have in different topics, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. So thank you all for being open and talking to us about your concerns.
Yeah, and we were going to pass on the resources that we spoke about during our conversation today to Terry, and she'll email them on. And if any of you have questions specifically, please get in touch, and we'd love to see you, whether it's on a phone consult or in person in our office. And yeah.
Thanks very much.
And please check out the website more. We didn't really go through the website very much because we were talking so much to you guys, but that's more important. But yeah, check out the website and some of the videos and resources on there as well.
I like how interactive this has been. It's been really good and helpful.
Yeah, it's been great. And I just want to remind everybody to please, if you have like any personal stories that you're willing to share, please send them my way, or just send me like, hey, it doesn't have to be specifically about sex. It could be about dating or relationships or image, whatever. So anything that you think might be interesting to, especially a new person or someone who's trying things out and don't know where to go, just say, hey, I'd be willing to talk to somebody, and we could probably even write it for you if you don't want to write it yourself, and just share your story. So yeah, that'd be awesome.
Thanks a million.
Thank you so much, Leslie and
Thank
Rachel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Terry and Leslie and bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.